Yes.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the joint Conneaut City Council and School Board meeting, January 7th. We will now call the meeting to order. We do have a few open issues. The first one on the list is the Chestnut paving update, and we'll go to Mr. Hockaday.
Okay, well, I'm gonna do a quick share screen, so hopefully all of you can see this. Actually, I need to start the presentation. Oh, wow. Get my eyes checked. Okay. All right. Need my keyboard. Okay. Sorry, 1 second while I flip this over to a share screen.
You want to wait?
No.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. School
All
board,
right.
can you see that?
Can you see it on yours, Johnny? Yeah.
Okay, so we did the call to order, old business. We have the Chestnut paving update. Essentially, there are 2 outstanding items left on that. All the concrete work is completed. We were well below temperatures on putting any kind of permanent line striping down. So they will be coming back in the spring to do that. There are some surface issues which they've been asked to address. So they might have to do some light grinding and put a new top 1 inch on it. It's a little porous for our standards. Line stripe it, and then they did do some seeding and restoration, but given the time of year, they're probably going to have to come back and do some additional seeding and restoration. Chris DeLuca from CT, I know, has already reached out to Koski for a tentative schedule on the address of those items. Obviously, it's functional. You've been driving on it. Hopefully, it's been a little bit better with the widened format. It's probably at least smoother. So those punch list items are going to be addressed here in the spring as soon as the weather becomes available to us. Is there anything else you guys need on that one? That's just the basic rendering of what we did. If people can't remember, we converted it to a 3 lane, so there's a lane on either side plus a turn lane. The sidewalks were enhanced. Full curbs were installed on both sides of the street with ADA ramps. The sidewalks were at grade to the street, so there was no curb for protection. The stormwater system and catch basins were all installed. So really, we have the top coat issue, the line striping, and that's pretty much it. It's substantially complete, other than those punch list items.
Jim, was the turn lane question corrected?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Possibly the one other enhancement I could see us doing, and we can look at it a little more in depth. It's not something that needs to happen in concert. Is the school zone signal, the flashing signal. It's a little dated. It's a traditional bulb. It's not LED. So that's something that we could look at possibly upgrading. If the need becomes on the sidewalks and the crossing areas, though, it really hasn't been brought up as an issue before. But I would listen to Lori and the school board. If there are crosswalk issues and people just aren't paying attention in the new format, and we need to look at an option like a RFB, or rapid flashing beacon. I'd give you the example is over on Chamberlain in front of General Aluminum. We did make that improvement there. So when you push a button to cross, and if people are actively in the crosswalk, it rapidly flashes. If there's nobody there, It's not flashing at all. What we've learned about crossing signals and stuff like that is if they flash all the time, they just melt into the background and people don't pay attention to them anymore. So we have the ones that actually either sense or you have to push a button before actively crossing. If that becomes an issue and we need to look at an enhancement like that, just let us know. I don't think it's really been an issue in the past, but I would like to at some point address the school zone flashers. They're getting pretty aged. But I would defer certainly to the school board if they were okay with what's there right now. Okay. Are there any
All right.
other questions?
Go ahead.
So I think that's a great idea to at least change the light to an LED at this time. And the idea of the flashing at the crosswalks too, or making a crosswalk like that would be really nice at some time in the future, I think. But I don't know if it's cost prohibitive, I don't know.
Well, they're not cheap. They're usually per cross. They're about I want to say $9,000 a set. So for each sidewalk crossing, it'd be about $9,000. It's something we can continue to look at. It's kind of need driven. So, if you feel like it's safe or there's really the issue times are times that you already have staff out there, for bus loading and unloading, that's fine. The ones to the entrance, LEDs are much brighter. They have a more persistent light. That's why I like an LED. And they've stopped making the incandescent bulbs. And while we have a store of them, they burn out all the time. And then it's more of a maintenance hazard than anything. So we just want to make sure they're always consistently working. But let's take a look at that and see if that's something that's necessary in the new configuration once we get the stripes down. If the school board notices something and feels like that's going to be something that's going to become an issue in the future, then let's definitely address that.
Wait till we're back to school on a regular basis to see what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's only half each, well, Lake Shore isn't, but I think we need to wait
Yeah.
and see what's gonna happen when we get back to school regularly.
I don't know if we have that many walkers in that particular school, but even the high school, that's a more active, I would think, crosswalk. That might be something to think of for there, because I think that one is very,
It needs to be moved, the one at the high school.
that's not what we're talking about, but I'm thinking about the crosswalks. And to me,
Yeah.
that,
Well, to kind of bring that around, maybe one of the things that we need to examine is some of the safe routes to school dollars. We can take a look at the safe route to school dollars in general. That would pay for sidewalk enhancements and so on and so forth. One of the things that it requires is us to do a study of the sidewalks and all that kind of stuff in the area. We did do a collaborative project between the city, the Conneaut Foundation, the Ashtabula County Land Bank, and others, where we did examine the sidewalks in front of each and every house in the city. So we could, if time permitting, of course, embark on something like that. Though it is a substantial undertaking, and I'd probably need some staff assistance from the school district. It's not something my office can do on its own. So.
With that in mind, what happened to the sidewalk where people had to repair their sidewalks if they were in disrepair? Is that still something that's going on? I don't have a sidewalk in front of my house, so I don't know. But I know that on Chestnut, some of those sidewalks are absolutely terrible. I'm
So-
sorry, Mill Street. By the high school, some of those sidewalks within a block or two of the high school, the sidewalks are terrible.
Yeah. Well, that's what the assessment examined. So we can actually go through and verify that. If, yes, you as a homeowner are responsible for the sidewalk in front of your house. So the city did take,
That program.
The city-
This,
homeowners are responsible for their sidewalks, not the city. What we can do is if it's bad enough, we can send a notice and say, fix it. If they refuse to fix it, then we can fix it, and basically we send them a bill and assess it to their property taxes. It's kind of an against your will kind of thing. But this typically not so popular, and from what I recall, it was not popular when it was done before, when they were picking whole areas of the city. We've taken a different approach that's more carrot than stick approach. The city council created a special fund 4 or 5 years ago, and they continue to fund it, that if homeowners want to replace the sidewalks in front of their house, essentially the city will pay for 50% of their sidewalk replacement. We do this annually. It's on a first come, first served basis. So, certainly anybody is welcome to do that. The forms are on our website. It's been a continually and perennially popular program with us. Same goes with trees in the tree lawn. Trees in the tree lawn are the responsibility of the property owner. If they're in bad shape, they need to be taken down. I believe the city will give up to $300 to remove the tree, and an additional $50 if they do the stump removal. It requires notification to the city beforehand. We inspect the tree. We say, yeah, it does need to come down. They go ahead and take it down, and then we reimburse up to $350 per tree. That, again, also is something council did several years ago to address some of those issues and encourage people to do that maintenance, kind of a meet you halfway kind of deal. It is voluntary, and those funds are available on a first come, first served basis.
All right, I'm just asking because if we're talking about, students walking to school, I do know that, there are some places where the sidewalks are bad shape.
Well, and I think really rather than just going in and kind of saying, well, I think this one's bad and this one's bad, what the Safe Routes to School program kind of forces you to do is really look at the pedestrian corridors related to the school in a more comprehensive way. And it may not be the guy with the bad sidewalk is actually the issue. It may be the person that actually doesn't have a sidewalk is the bigger issue, and kids are walking in the street or whatever because there isn't a sidewalk present at all. So the Safe Routes to School program forces you to go through that kind of planning and assessment process and identify where the real problems actually are. And then obviously it provides grant funding. It doesn't put the onus on just the individual property owners to go out and replace their sidewalks. So I would probably encourage that route. It also helps us understand, maybe how the needs of busing versus walking have changed in the school district over the years, which we know they've changed. So make us do a little more realistic assessment of where our needs actually are.
Okay, I just asked it.
So, I want to jump to our next projects. This is just the ODOT projects that are going to be beginning in 21. They will continue into 22. So I want to kind of identify to the school district, and there will be a public meeting and a pre-con meeting. The school district will receive that meeting invite. These projects are set. There's final legislation that I received today from ODOT for kind of the final notice to proceed, as well as the final local share estimates and yada, yada, yada. This will go to bid on March 11th. It will be bound and returned on March 28th. It will go into contract and award for construction beginning in May of 21. So understand that this is ODOT PID 98909, and you can look it up in ODOT's Ellis system, but this is kind of a summary sheet here. There are 4 distinct projects here, and I want you to be equally aware of all of them. They did Lake Road last year. The one piece that they did not include in that project is the culvert that is under Kelsey's Run, which is just a little bit east of Chestnut and Lake Road, on Lake Road itself. That is set for a full replacement. So they will replace the entirety of that bridge. It will drop for some portion of time, I believe, into maintaining no lanes, and then it will also have some one-way traffic for some portion of that time. right now, that is scheduled to begin as one of the first projects beginning in May. I believe it has a 60-day closure timeline associated, so hopefully it will not be a huge effector on the schools. The one that will probably be a little more impactful is between these two center hash lines on Route 20, proceeding at Parish Road and then just west of Gore Road. We are going to begin that full depth replacement of Route 20. That full depth replacement, and what I mean by that is all of the concrete panels and underlayment are coming out. All the stormwater system for that system is coming out and being replaced. And then it is going to be a full reconstruction from the dirt sub base, new intermediate course, new top course, new curbs, new stormwater structures, new guardrails, the whole shoot and match. That will, for the duration of 21, I believe from beginning in May, headed to almost October 1st of the year, that will be eastbound traffic only. So 20 will have to divert as they tear out the majority of that road. We will maintain eastbound traffic. The reason why it's being maintained eastbound is because of UH Conneaut. The emergency room is there, so we want people to be able to proceed uninhibited to the emergency room at UH at all times throughout the duration of the project. In October, that will open back up to 2-lane traffic. It's still on the fence as to whether or not resurfacing the balance of Route 20 all the way from the Viaduct Bridge to Parish Road, and then from the full reconstruction area to our western limits at the Amboy Bridge. That will all be milled off and filled. We're trying to get them to accelerate the milling and fill west of the Parish Road. I think it would work out better, but we need to talk a little more about their MOT on it, which is tricky with this project. And then the Center Road rehab, the city in 2016 replaced the southern wing walls and did some other various improvements on the stormwater structures in that area related to that bridge. The one thing that was not done, there was no upgrade to the guardrails, which are non-conforming, nor was the deck bridge rehabilitated, the decking itself. So this will do all of those things as well, including a full guardrail replacement and redecking. So that will likely take place in 22 rather than 21, but these are all substantially the same project. The reconstruction, while it'll be reopened to full traffic, will probably not be fully completed in 21. Some of that will bind over to 22. So these are very, very large projects. I believe the total is right around $6.5 to $7 million. And we'll know a final number once that's bid and received at the end of March. So I wanted to make you aware of that project because it does have some implications for your busing and routing. And when we get to the point of the pre-construction meeting, I will send those invitations to Superintendent Riley, and hopefully she can include her bus garage and transportation folks in that, so they have a really good idea of what the MOT is going to look like and if there's going to be any impact on bus routes or what those workarounds might be. Okay, that was a mouthful. So are there any kind of questions about
What was the detour? What's the
What will the
detour?
detour be?
what will the detour be? Well, the detour will be any road you can get by. No, so for trucks, the trucks will detour to only state routes. ODOT projects require that they only utilize state routes in routing detours. So what they will likely do is that westbound traffic on 20 will either be shot up Parish Road, or 7 will be signed for trucks. Westbound, if you're coming from Pennsylvania, they'll tell them to go up 7 to Lake Road, or down 7 to 90. You know, obviously for vehicular traffic, you'll still be able to travel Parish Road and go around. You know, or you'll be able to cut south on Center and go around, or go 90 and go around. Those are going to be your options. Eastbound will be maintained at all times.
And that's supposed to begin when, Jim?
May,
That will begin in May.
Okay.
May to October.
So hopefully the 2-lane configuration or the one-way configuration will cease hopefully by October. That is the projected timeline. So you would really only have a problem August and September.
Tentatively, last week of August, we'll start running buses.
Okay. Yeah, and we have made ODOT aware of, you know, obviously for the bridge on 531 and some of that culvert replacement pieces. You know, they're aware D-Day happens in August. You know, their contract coincides with its completion prior to that. You know, we're trying to work around the obvious things. This is structured so we've tried to make it as minimally impactful on the school district as possible and everyone else. But it is construction and you know, it's invasive.
We're not open.
The westbound, is it going to end at the Amboy Light or to the Amboy Bridge?
You mean the eastbound only?
No,
It-
no, the
it-
whole project.
The project is from the Viaduct Bridge over Conneaut Creek to the
Right.
western limit of Conneaut, which is the new bridge, Amboy Bridge.
Oh, which is the bridge, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Couldn't make it out on the map.
But that's just resurfacing, right?
Yes.
That's just resurfacing. Right.
Well, and just to let you know, just the full depth repair area is a little over $4 million for this short little run from Parish Road to Gore Road. I have also
Okay,
included
any
in
other
here.
questions? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
I emailed this out to you, both the presentation. I also included the specific ODOT flyer, which I've previously given council, but I emailed it out to you all as well before the meeting. There's a little QR code. ODOT has built their own website just for this project series. So if you have specific questions or need to reference specific information, you can follow this QR code right there, or you can follow the instructions that are here in terms of you go to their ODOT projects page and click on Conneaut and yada, yada, yada. So, you know, if you want to look at that a little more in depth, and we just did a new website for the city. I'm going to upload a projects page on there, and I'll include this on there. So if any residents have questions, and as soon as these things finally get nailed down, there's a couple other moving pieces and parts that we're trying to iron out here as far as other operations that are not city or not ODOT that are going to be impactful on this project. So Dominion's going to be doing some betterment projects on Route 20 this year as well, and we're hoping to get them to accelerate some of those betterment projects to coincide, so we're not in never-ending construction for the rest of our lives. So, so the hope is that we can make it look like we planned it this way, and get all those pieces and parts out of the way prior to the completion of this road. So.
Okay, any other questions on the projects? Okay, Jim, I see for open issues, Chestnut Phase 3, did we touch on that?
Not yet. This
Okay.
is not a NODOT project. This is yet another project because
Okay.
we just
Then do you
love
want to
Chestnut.
go back to that then?
Yeah, yes. So there's a little image here. This is the segment between phase 1 and phase 2. So this is north of the tracks there, all the way up to I believe that is Residence. So this is our kind of final phase. We already did the segment north of this up to 16th, down to Smith, and now we did the south section south of the tracks, or between the two sets of tracks, I should say. And now we're doing the middle piece. You know, kind of the lesson learned for us the last time around is we had the issue with the water main at the tail end of the last phase. So when we went in to design this project, we are taking out the stormwater line, the sewer line, and the water line, and doing a full replacement and a full street reconstruction on this. So these plans are in final review. They'll probably be before council here in the February meetings, I'm hoping, and out to bid. We will try and make this synchronize with the school year as best as we can. I'd like to know your preference. Would you rather me start on this project earlier and impact this year when we're in the limited hybrid model? Or would you rather me do it in?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. That's kind of what I figured. So that was my assumption. So we will do our best to accelerate this project and get it out there so they can start on it this year. As you can kind of see here in the little thing is the high school's here just for reference. It is a short detour around, but Chestnut Street I know is a significant thoroughfare for the schools and the buses. So, like I said, that will probably be coming before council here in February for bidding. So we're busy.
Any questions on that? Okay, next open issue is for COVID updates.
So
Probably Jim and Lori might want to chime in on this.
Yeah, Jim had it on his list, so he can go first.
Okay,
okay, so just real quick, I mean, I just want to make sure, I'll repeat it till I'm blue in the face. You know, we are doing vaccinations. We're in group 1B, which it is a phased group. 85 and older was last week. We're in the 75 and older crowd this week. We'll be in 70 and older next week and 65 and older 2 weeks from now. I would strongly encourage people to either call or go to the city website and register in advance. If you have loved ones that are in those age categories and they're having trouble do it, please assist them. We only need a couple of things. We need their name, we need their date of birth, and we need a solid phone number to reach them at. All vaccinations are happening by appointment. So when you register, you know, it may be a little bit before they contact you back, but they will contact you back and schedule you for an appointment. And then you come in, it takes about 30 minutes in total. We ask that people please arrive promptly for their appointment, as after we do your intake, dispense the vaccination, we're required to monitor you for a period of 15 minutes. So, you know, there is a little bit of a process to it. Usually it takes about 30 minutes in total to get in and out. You know, I think Nichelle and her team has done a wonderful job. We've been assisted by university hospitals and their outreach nursing staff as well. So we're moving through those phases. We cannot schedule terribly far in advance is a question that we get a lot because we only know maybe a week in advance, a couple days in advance, really how much vaccine we're going to receive from the state. So we try not to get too far out over our skis and schedule people out 7 weeks from now because we don't know the volume of Moderna vaccine that we're going to be receiving. That could change here in the coming weeks. So We're kind of doing it a week by week strategy. Typically, we're running the clinic 3 days a week. We've been typically vaccinating anywhere between 90 and about 107 today maybe. I think it was 107 was our total. So they've been moving along in a very workmanlike fashion in terms of getting people in and out. They've done a great job. I know the schools are set for, I believe, February 12th, correct, Lori?
Yes, so at least once a week, I'm talking to Louise and Michelle, if not more. When the governor announced on December 23rd, we started putting a plan in place. We're very fortunate that we're one school district with one health department. And so after we met at the board, after I met with the board, the plan is we already had a non-student day on Friday, February 12th. At this time, I have close to 160 staff registered. The initial poll was close to 90% of the staff. That was a yes or an undecided. So I'm going to send another reminder out to get them signed up. We're going to do it all at Conneaut High School because the more you move the vaccine, the worse it gets. So they'll just take everything from the health department up. I did have a couple of mine. I did have our nurse and a LPN already vaccinated so that they can help with the vaccination clinic. So they'll have support from us as well. We figure we can get 25 to 30 an hour through. So we'll just sign appointments. We're going to try to keep the buildings together so they're in their pods of the people they've already been with. Unless they're a husband and wife that are spread throughout the district, they'll come at the same time. Then the follow-up will be March 12th, fingers crossed, which is also a Friday. We will call a calamity day that day, so we can use the same process and get the rest of, the second dose into everybody's arms.
That's excellent. I'm so glad to hear that the response was so high.
Tammy, Suzanne, I just wanted to say, I have heard very good comments from community people, my dear friends who are 80 and 70, much older than I am, that everything at Station 3 was just very professional and excellent. And so I was happy to hear that and wanted you all to know that.
Thank you for saying that. I know we talked a little bit about it at our council meeting on Monday, and we're hearing the same things. And I told the other council members, it's hard to hear some of the horror stories from other areas around us. And I feel very proud that our health department, in conjunction with Jim, has this program set up, and that we quickly got the website where we could register people. I think that's been a huge, huge help. And it makes us very proud. So kudos to everybody.
Now, the one caveat with the school vaccination is that I had to submit a form that in order to be vaccinated for staff, the schools have to be back in session. Hybrid, which is what we're doing, counts as being back in school. So there's no disclaimer that we have to be back 5 days a week. I've had conversations with Michelle about the new orders, about not having to quarantine, within a classroom if somebody's positive. But we're, again, still taking everything on a case-by-case basis. But we are very much adhering to the 6 feet of social distance still. We're temping every kid every morning. So those protocols will stay in place. And, unless, with social distancing, this year it makes it really tough to do much more than what we're doing now. Bringing 25 kids in, we're going to have everybody less than 6 feet or less than 3 feet. And I know, Michelle and I, neither one of us feel less than 3 feet is safe. So we're looking at some options, but right now it's status quo, which does fulfill the obligation to be in school.
All right, that's good to know, because I did listen to the governor the other day, and it worried me a little bit. I couldn't decipher exactly what he was meaning about being in school. And then he was mentioning about all kids were going to be in school by March. So does our hybrid system qualify for that? Or are you feeling that you're going to have to go back to a regular schedule in March?
No, the paper that I signed said, you just can't be all remote. So as long as you're hybrid, that counts, or all in. Just keep in mind, Lakeshore, our youngest building, is going 4 days. So, you know, they're already in 4
Okay.
days. Everybody else is going 2 days and then the 3. You know, we're exploring what the fourth quarter might look at. I'll probably be the last one to get vaccinated on the 12th because I'll be spending all day there. And I'll have some time to talk some things over with Michelle. But early conversations, when there was the concern that signing the paper meant we had to be every kid back in the building, it would not be safe with the distancing. And we don't do anything, you know, without the partnership with the health department. So, you know, I know, and I'm speaking on behalf of the board, but our conversation is, you know, the health department has to sign off on any changes to the plan as well. So anything less than 3 feet, if it's not acceptable, we're not going to be able to do it.
Okay, very good. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions regarding COVID?
Jim, I just have one thing on the website. The birth date module is still malfunctioning. I checked it today.
Okay.
I signed up online
Now,
and I found it that it was functioning, but that you couldn't go forward unless you hit the month. So you can't change the year. It's kind of goofy with the way and I just happened to figure it out. So
Yeah, you have to change the year, which
you have
if
to
you're,
hit the month, and then when you hit the month, then you can change the year.
right. If you're talking somebody who's
I
in
know,
my situation, trying to do my mother 92, that was pretty
yeah, I thought that was a little complicated.
pretty much of a pain.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Okay, next on our agenda is the Dorman Road update.
That was us. Somebody here had questions.
Yeah, so it was brought up at our last joint meeting. I think it was that there was some potential conversation about using grindings on Dorman Road. Just checking to see what the status is on that.
we will be pricing that out this spring. You know, that's still on our agenda to take a look at, you know, as we potentially move forward with some developments in the industrial park. We may have to relocate those, and Dorman Road's what we talked about. You know, it's still too early to get final pricing yet on that. I have talked to a couple of the companies that do the regrind, and we've looked at that. So once we get a little closer to being able to do it, I'll be able to furnish final pricing to everybody related to that project. So we've had conversations, but I don't have anything too meaningful to share with you as far as an update on that, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else on that from anybody? Okay, next, resource officer.
Let me take it.
Yeah, so basically, we just want to kind of keep that top of mind, that is something that for the fall, we'd like to see if there's a way that we can approach that subject. I'm guessing it's probably going to be a conversation that needs to be had, probably Lori and Jim, to kind of see what our options are. But we definitely want to keep that conversation going as far as looking for a resource officer in the district.
I did have a briefing from somebody that works with us on our security plan. There was some the governor did sign a couple bills that include some safety implications for school districts. I'm going to be at a summit the next 2 days, so we'll get more information. I was just kind of front loaded a little bit. But there is some pieces on suicide, there's some pieces on mental health, and some extra resource officer training. So, whether, it's always been the board's desire to work with the city first, but, assuming we're back in whatever the new normal is going to be, 5 days a week next year, it's definitely something that we want to have in place.
And
Okay,
again,
go ahead, Jim.
I think, our position is, it's something we support. We need to figure out a financial roadmap for getting there. And, unfortunately, since we began this conversation, there's a much, much higher degree of financial uncertainty today than there is moving forward. And while we finished 2020 okay, we don't know what 2021 is going to look like. We certainly don't know what Congress or the new Biden administration is going to do in relationship to local governments and local entities. So I think we can continue to have the conversation on how it might work, but as far as realizing any of the financial security pieces to make that a reality, it's a little bit of wait and see. That's my opinion of it. I mean, certainly council, can respond a little more pointedly than I can. But as far as predicting what our financial finish for 21 is, I can't even begin to project, other than with what resources we have on hand now and what resources we project to finish the end of the year in. Obviously, police and the police department lives largely in our general revenue fund, which is the hardest fund to protect for us. So, right now we're projecting, a final balance of probably half of what we're at right now. So unless there's an additional round of, aid from Congress related to COVID, if there's a quote unquote Biden CARES Act piece that makes it through with those pieces. It's not clear to us at this point. They've said there's going to be state and local dollars in there, but there's been no details as to how they can be deployed. And if it's like anything it was in the last session, they made the announcement in May and we didn't get final clarification on how those dollars could be used until almost November. So it was very difficult for us to say with any level of certainty, even with quote unquote promised aid, what it meant for us locally in terms of a financial reality. So I totally hear you on wanting a resource officer. I agree with it. It's a question of practical, dollars and cents of how we get there in such a fluid economic situation that we're in.
I agree with that. And it's just so tenuous right now, not knowing what 2021 is actually going to turn out to be. So
Well,
exactly what Jim said, it's kind of like a wait and see about resources.
But Tammy, in
Yeah.
other words, the city would be all right if we pursue other options, that we don't just consider the partnership with the city, knowing the financial roadmap may not, give it to us in September. So you all would be all right with us, with Lori pursuing every option possible to get a resource officer in our school in
Yeah.
August.
Well, speaking for myself, yeah, absolutely. I think that would be, the smart thing to do. And, I wouldn't blame her at all. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we can't give you, like, oh, yes, we can fund this. So, it would be in your best interest to do that. So, that I'm speaking for myself here, but yes.
Hey, Lori, I'm gonna ask that you go ahead and contact the sheriff's office, and see if we can draw up an agreement with them.
Okay.
And because we just don't have much time, if we want to roll this out in August.
Right.
Mr. Arcaro, do you have anything to add to that? Did I speak out of turn or?
No, it's unfortunate that we're in the money situation that we're in. I would prefer that the schools went with our local police department, but if it's not feasible financially, then we really don't have much say in it. But I would prefer, of course, that it stayed with the local police department, but that's entirely up to the schools at this point until we get a more clear picture on our financials.
So Jim, I got a question for you. I noticed you guys are posting for testing for a new officer. Is that replacing a retirement or are you adding to the staff?
It's replacing a resignation.
Okay.
All right, any other comments regarding the resource officer? Okay, let's move on to new business. Does
Yeah.
anybody have any new business to discuss?
Tammy, I just have one other open issue, and I just want to make the city aware that we are going to keep our eye on that vacant trailer on Chestnut Street. I know they complied and met with the issues were brought up to speed or, met the health department and the Department of Commerce at the state level. But we want to be still very vigilant about that trailer because it remains vacant. A window could be broken, doors could be jimmied open. We want you to know that we will be vigilant about that trailer as well as the health department.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, new business? Anybody have new business to share or talk about?
Lori, did you want to mention just about the calendar that City Council is aware we're going to hold graduation in the football stadium? However, next year we would hopefully be able to return to an indoor venue that would not be dependent on weather, just so that everybody's aware of that.
When is the graduation this year?
Well, it's going to be May 29th with a rain date of May 30th. We're going to use the same protocols that we used for football games. So seating, capacity, we have all of that. If that increases, then the graduates will be able to have more guests. But just so we could start planning now, we're just planning with going with outside, which is why there's a rain date and not to have to move it inside. So it'll be either the 29th or 30th. And then next year we will go back to having it at New Leaf I think it's on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the calendar hasn't been approved.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I'm working on.
Okay, that sounds good.
I'm meeting with the other school superintendents tomorrow. We are very aware of D-Day. We've been starting a little later, and I don't know, I haven't had a chance to talk to Lori about even what D-Day is going to look like, but very similar to what this year's calendar would have looked like, with letting us catch our breath as a community after D-Day, and then starting a little bit later after that.
Okay, good. Anything else?
I have some new business. I just to let you know, it's on our property, but I did meet with Matt Crawford, and I'll have a more formal presentation for the board. He's going to put a kiosk up at the Outdoor Learning Center to identify some plants and a chimney bird tower. So he's pursuing some funding. I know he's working on with Taylor Cleveland and the Boy Scouts about a potential project for them. So we'll have a more formal announcement, but we expect some enhancements to the Outdoor Learning Center in the next few months to come.
That's great. All right, council, Mr. Hockaday, any new business you'd like to discuss?
No, I'm okay. Thank you. I think I think I've covered everything I can cover.
Yeah, we.
Tammy, before-
Okay,
Tammy, before we adjourn,
yes,
a meeting for our next joint session, possibly the first Wednesday in May.
third Wednesday in May. Did I hear that? I'm sorry, Joni, I was having trouble hearing you there. Third Wednesday,
First
May
Wednesday
5th.
in May.
first. Okay,
Be the fifth,
Right, May 5th.
May fifth.
Cinco de Mayo.
Mr. Hockaday, is that date good for you or council?
I had a lot of trouble hearing what day was being proposed there.
It was, the first Wednesday in May, which is the 5th at 6 o'clock.
Cinco de Mayo, huh?
Oh, yeah. Woohoo.
Yes, that works.
I think that's good for us.
Can we meet at Margaritaville?
Maybe.
Okay.
I guess we'll leave it open for now to see if we'll do Zoom again or meet in person. Is that okay?
I think that works.
Okay. Okay, anything else? Board members? Hello? Is anybody out there? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I think we had a very informative meeting. I wish you all luck with the vaccines. So we will see you May 5th at 6 p.m.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
The high school.
Take care.
Joint school board meeting is adjourned.
Say good night.
We're going to stay on, council. We're going to stay on for economic development.
Yes.
Ella.
Gotta switch screens here. Okay, so I pulled up the other agenda items. Now, Martha is still here in the room with me. A good number of these items are subject to executive session. They deal with the sale of real property and other things. So I will likely have to bypass a majority of tonight's agenda if Martha remains in the room.
Can you do those first and then
So yeah, I can do that. So I'm not trying to be rude, but they
progress is fine.
so let me turn my screen share back on real quick. Okay, so I am going to jump down to C, which is MARAD. MARAD is the division of the U.S. Department of Transportation. That's the Maritime Assistance Administration is what MARAD stands for. That is the port grant. I just want to give you a couple quick updates. Obviously, we've had a complete change of administration from the fall to the spring. I don't anticipate any issues with that, although it might delay some of the things that we're looking at. So one of the things that we're still waiting on from USDOT are some of the grant requirements that have not been completed for this round. That will likely be one of those things that got hung up a little bit in the change of administrations. This is things like domestic steel requirements, environmental impact requirements. Those could potentially be subject to change within, administrations. So we don't even have drafts of that. We have a virtual site visit because they're still not meeting in person, set for later this week. We had our third environmental meeting earlier this week. Basically, what we're trying to determine in some of these preliminary meetings is whether it can be completed under what's called an environmental assessment, or we'll have to go through a full-blown what's called an
Jim?
environmental. Yeah.
Jim, your
Can you hear me?
microphone is back. Jim, can I interrupt you for a minute, please?
Yes.
Jim, your is not working. It's kind of going in and out.
Okay.
Actually, Tammy, it's on your end.
Yeah.
It is. Oh,
Yeah, you're freezing and your audio's going in and out. Jim's is fine.
Okay. So I just wanted to let you all know
Can you hear me?
that. Yeah, I can hear you. But
You're
your screen is.
frozen. Tammy's frozen.
Tammy, do you want to try calling in maybe? Or logging out and log back in?
Oh,
Yep. Cheers again.
okay. Can you hear me now? I
Yes, we can.
kind of went out and tried to go back in.
Yep.
Is that better?
You're back.
Okay. I'm sorry, Jim. I thought it was you and it was me.
That's okay. So anyways, we're discussing the difference between environmental assessment and an environmental impact study. What that means to us is about 12 months of our lives and a lot of public hearings. So obviously we prefer an environmental assessment as opposed to an environmental impact study. Ultimately, they take us down the same road where we go through and say, look at the improvements that we're trying to do are either minimally impacting or zero impacting in terms of any environmental impact. So we are continuing to work through that. We are going to do a preliminary scoring of that right now and turn that into USDOT and kind of keep seeking their feedback as we move closer and closer. Our goal is to hit a grant agreement by May. A finalized grant agreement that will include all these elements. It will have to say whether it's going to be an EA or EIS. So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces on this project. But more than anything, I just want to let council know that we are continuing to meet, even though I don't give full in-depth things in my administrative reports, that we've had dozens of these, or about a half a dozen of these meetings so far, and it involves a wide range of folks from our side, including CT consultants, as well as about a half a dozen staff members at the USDOT as well. So it's a big project. It's marching forward, and I'll continue to give you updates as required. The other project I wanted to just spend a little time on. We talked a little bit about it kind of between at the end of the year. We did settle all TIF items. So the city was fully reimbursed for any outstanding items on the part of Truck World related to the TIF. So that was completed prior to year's end. Certainly I want to thank Gary and Nicole Ferraro from Truck World. They did the bulk of the some of the work there, and obviously John Williams was heavily involved in that. Two items, we still are waiting on the final installation of the signals, the new signals. I asked Sam Sowards, Truck World's lead engineer, to touch base with Cornerstone, who is set to do the traffic signal installation, and get back to me on a timeline. That was 2 weeks ago. I have not heard back from Sam if they have a final timeline for that. So I'll continue to poke there, but other than that, it is completed. Those monies for the compensation of Cornerstone will be directly from the developer to the installing company, so it won't pass through the city's books. It will just be memorandized. Gary went ahead and prepaid the CT inspection of that, so we won't have anything that travels through the city itself. So other than the physical installation, there's not going to be, I don't think, any issues there. So once that is installed, we're officially done with that project. And I did, John mentioned to him about labeling that driveway entrance, and it was Gary's request that it just be labeled Truck World Drive, since the other street is labeled Loves. So I had a request as to whether we're going to hang those or how those are going to be displayed on there. So he told me what he wanted and what his preference was, and we'll have to see how we can make that happen. So, but we will get that done. Anything about Truck World? Okay. ODOT. This is less economic development related, but I just wanted to give you an update on it. I did receive the pre-con notice from DOT. They are going to illuminate the 7 and 90 ramps as they have in Ashtabula and Geneva. That has been bid and awarded. It is scheduled to be fully completed by October of this year. So that'll be a very, very nice improvement. Got a couple of things that we need to tie off with them in terms of some utility or potential utility conflicts, but we are looking forward to that pre-con on the 17th of February. Ironically, it'll be Cornerstone Electric installing that as well. So I think that was a total cost of $318,000. The one that I'm waiting on more solid information, because it doesn't come through their transportation group, it comes through their facilities group, is the new rest area. They did file an initial permit for demolition and reconstruction of that facility this year. I have requested that they reach out to us and set up a full meeting, administrative meeting, so we can walk through it step by step. I'll certainly be able to answer, Chris Breck's question, because there is an emergency access off of Dorman Road into that facility, and there have been a couple questions that have come around that. So I don't have any of those answers, and we are attempting to get that kind of final meeting. That project will actually have to go before Planning Commission before approval, because it is commercial in nature. So we are going to have to take a look at that. So hopefully we're able to get their final drawings and information and get it assessed and in front of Planning Commission sooner rather than later. So that's been on the table for several years. It was actually supposed to take place in spring of last year, and you know what happened in that story. So so here we are now, and hopefully we're able to make that project move forward this year. The last item, and I'm going to go into some limited detail here, is harbor planning. We have, as I'm sure you're probably aware, a number of properties that sold up there in the areas of Day, Park, Erie, and Harbor, and Broad. In my mind, it's one of the more positive developments in the city in terms of, you know, the new businesses, new business starts. But there are probably about half a dozen potential new business starts that are looking to start either this spring or sometime in 21. You know, we have some things that I think we probably need to look at and dress up for the city, including some of the decorative street lighting. I know this is one that we've talked about a little bit on a limited basis. I can't remember if it was in a formal meeting or not. But like the decorative street lighting on the south side of, I believe that's Park, it only goes halfway down the street. I don't know why, I can't explain it. But that's one of the things we'd probably address. There's some sidewalk issues that we probably need to address. Obviously, there's some planning things that will need to occur up there as well. You know, we have been working in partnership with the Port Authority as well as the Conneaut Foundation, who have had some vested interest in some of these projects as well. I met with Kathy Zappatello of the Conneaut Library, and we talked about some of the needs for these businesses. And in fact, we had two semi-formal meetings with this group of new business owners and property owners in the area last fall. And we've kind of concluded that we need to do a little bit of an enhanced planning process with that. Kathy was able to secure about $3,000 to $4,000 in funding to do some additional planning activities, which we'd like to start here in the next couple of weeks with some of those property owners. A couple things that we want to address are those issues like public infrastructure, sidewalks, street lighting, parking, dumpsters, those things which I think do need to be addressed. But you know, at the end of the day, we need to talk about how we might pay for some of those improvements, as they can be quite costly, and we're in the process of estimating those potential improvements. And then we may want to discuss either a special improvement district, or we've even talked about doing what's called a DORA, which is a dining and outdoor refreshment area. So it's kind of all on the table. I mean, all we can do is say, here's some things that we can do, and listen to what those business owners have to say and can identify as needs and ways that we can help support it. So I just wanted to, more than anything, make you aware that some of those things are going on, and that there's some exciting things in my mind, very positive and exciting things going on down there. Again, I'm pretty pleased with the direction all of that is headed in. You know, some of it's related to the Port Authority, you know, down over the hill, but I think more importantly, I think it's the entire area that is really seeing some renewed interest in terms of investment in new businesses. Those are the public things I can talk about. So.
Jim, if we can go back to the ODOT one with the TIC.
Yes.
Is that discussion going to include the scales, or have you heard any update on that?
It has so far the discussion has not centered around anything related to the scales.